Have you ever wondered what items you should aim for buying or keeping in case your item box is overflowing by items in Super Mario Party? If so, you welcome to the right video. In today's video, I will go through my top 9 list of items for Super Mario Party. Before I start this list, I can go through a couple of things. The first thing that you have probably noticed by the title being top 9 items, I will only go through the items on party boards. So anything exclusive to Partner Party, I will not account for. This is because I do admittedly have far too little experience playing Partner Party to be confident giving you all an analysis on anything from that perspective of that game mode. This also means I will only judge the items from their usefulness in party mode. As I said, I do not feel confident giving you a good analysis of the items applications in partner mode. I will also assume that the players are relatively even with one another in terms of minigame skill levels, which means that I will assume that everyone wins minigames every now and again. If you do not win any minigames at all, the tier list will obviously change to reflect on that. And if you win every single minigame, it will likewise change. With that said, let's count down the list. On the number 9 spot of this list, we find the Coinado. The Coinado is one of the items that has the most variation depending on how even the players are compared to one another in terms of minigame skills. The larger the difference in skill level, the more powerful it gets. However, as we assume each player is about even in terms of minigame skill level, this item does have to fall down to place number 9. This should say a lot about how powerful all items in this game are though. When this game's, albeit horribly nerfed, Boobo is the worst item in the game. The reason why I value this item so low is because first of all, it can only perform a coin steal. If it could steal a star, this item would immediately go far higher up on the list. But also because of how few coins the coin steal takes in this game. It takes somewhere between 5 to 10 coins, which is very rarely going to heavily affect the player stolen from due to how generous the economy in Super Mario Party is compared to older entries. The fact that it costs 5 coins to buy makes it an item you are rarely going to buy from a shop, as the only time you would want to buy the Coinado to use it is in case someone is about to buy a star, and you stealing coins from them would drop them below 10 coins. While there are situations where this item is the best item you can have, there are so few of these moments that it has to be this low on the list. However, if the difference between players' performance in minigames is huge, the value of this item increases strongly. The reason for this is because for a poor player, coins matters far more than for rich players, which means that a rich player using this to keep a poor player extremely poor stops them from being able to purchase items and stars, which means they can extend their lead significantly by blocking them. And for a poor player, the ability to gain 5 to 10 coins is definitely a blessing that can turn the game around for them. Although there is another item that will soon come up that does this much better. On spot number 8, we find the Poison Mushroom. The Poison Mushroom is a classic item that has been around as a viable item since Mario Party 3. In this game, the Poison Mushroom decreases the sum of the die roll by 2. This is potentially a very powerful effect. The reason for this is because of the new smaller dice, and that there is a lot of value to some spaces, while on other maps, landing on specific spaces can destroy your game plan entirely by either teleporting you to the other side of the board, or by making you lose half of your coins. While this is potentially a very powerful effect, you still not guarantee that anything interesting happens when you use this item, as the player could still roll a 6 and move 4 steps forward, which is kind of a normal die roll. And in reality, you do not really increase its odds of anything happening unless you want the player to land on the space they're currently standing on, or if you absolutely don't want them to roll a result on the highest die slides. The fact that the player can choose which of their die to use after being affected by the item, and allies making it so they move even more forward than normal. The combined sum of these two parts makes it so that more often than not, this item just really makes them move 2 steps less forward, which is a pretty mediocre effect compared to being able to control where you're landing. Another reason why I do value this item so low most of the time is because you just use your item for the turn on stopping one player from progressing instead of helping yourself. Item uses are a very valuable resource in Super Mario Party due to how generous its economy is, and you do rarely want to waste your items solely on sabotaging your opponent. And the only reason why this item isn't much lower on the list is in fact, because there are so many circumstances in this game, where reducing your opponent's movement speed by 2 is valuable enough to be worth the opportunity cost of using your item for the turn. It does also stack, so multiple players can heavily use this item to mess up for the player in the lead if you all go together and cooperate. On lucky number 7, we do as a lucky coincidence find the most RNG dependent item of the bunch, the hidden block card. The hidden block card is pretty self-explanatory. It spawns a hidden block where you stand. It can give you either 4 to 15 coins or a star. This item can't be bought from shops though. I do not have the data on how common the star spawns are for this block, but from gameplay to judge, the wheel seems to be a pretty fair estimate, so I will assume it is a 1 in 6. If this number is slightly off, that will not affect the power of this item too much in my eyes, as I will judge it mostly based on the most common outcome, getting coins, and that is what I expect this item to do most of the time. This item is yet another one of those items that varies a lot in value depending on how good a player is. A great player who would win a lot of minigames would value this item far less than any other item, while someone who struggles with minigames will always feel happy getting this item from an item space. Due to the economy of Super Mario Party, players are rarely left wanting for money though during normal gameplay circumstances, which means that this item will more often than not just be a good boost to the economy, yet not something they rush to pop. However, when it is good, it is really good. Getting a free star is definitely highly valuable, and if that outcome was guaranteed, this item would be far higher up on the list. And in any other Mario Party game, getting free coins would be very useful as a side result. However, this is Super Mario Party, with the most friendly economy of any Mario Party game, which makes this economic benefit of the item suffer quite a bit. It also doesn't help this item out that due to how small Super Mario Party sports are, it isn't difficult to end up on a hidden block space, compared to earlier entries as well. At the end of the day, this isn't an item you gladly throw away, but it isn't the be-all end-all it would have been in any earlier entry to the title. Which is ultimately a good thing in my opinion, as I do not think that this kind of item is healthy if they are too good. On spot number 6 we find the classic Dash Mushroom. The Dash Mushroom is one of the most classic Mario Party items, making its entry back in Mario Party 2. Over the time it has changed a lot though. Nowadays, instead of giving you 2 die rolls, it adds 3 to whatever die roll you make. This is a very powerful effect, especially when you take the character die into account, which makes it easier to extend your reach on what number you want to end up on. As an example, if you play as Wario and use his die, you have only 2 possible results, a 6 or a 0. This means that you are certain to either end up 6 spaces away or stay where you are. By using Dash Mushroom, you change this to 9 or 3 spaces, which can make a huge difference in case you are currently a space you very much do not want to end up on, or in case there is a space 3 spaces away you really do enjoy. Basically turning away the biggest weakness of Wario's die and making it into a non-issue. While this item works very well with characters with more certain die rolls, it is still a +3 to whatever you roll, which is slightly less than a normal die roll on average as a point of reference. And due to the small borders of Super Mario Party and the strong economy, anything that quickly moves you forward is extremely valuable, especially so Mega Fruit Paradise, where you might want to avoid landing on event spaces, which this item helps out a lot with. In older titles, this item would rate much lower, but in Super Mario Party, due to how the economy and board design works, it becomes a surprisingly potent item. On spot number 5 we have the item that was the trickiest for me to evaluate, the custom die block. The custom die block is, when it is good, really good. It would either be the second or third best item you could sit with in your backpack, honestly. And unlike many items you could say this about, the circumstances during which it is this good are quite common actually. However, there is a huge catch. The custom die block lets you pick a number between 1 and 6, and certainly move you that amount of spaces, which is situationally extremely powerful, but also situationally so bad that it's actually a detriment. The custom die block suffers from being the only item in the entire game that you do actually not always want to be using. The reason for this is because when you use the custom die block, your allies actually do not get to roll their dice and add it to your own. Which means that mid to late game, if you have an ally or two, even if you pick a 6, you will most likely move less space than you would if you just roll the die normally. When the custom die block shines is when there's a specific space you want to land on, and that specific space is more often than not an ally space. Allies in Super Mario Party are amongst the most powerful resources in the game. They are part of the reason why certain characters like Wario are so extremely good, as they can force them to land on ally spaces with their die with certain outcomes. The ally does, in addition to giving you a new die to pick from, help you out in certain minigames and rolls 1d2 for you each turn to add to whatever number you roll. This means that if there are 5 turns left on the board, an ally would on average move you forward 7.5 spaces, which is really powerful. This means that when the custom die block is good, it is almost as good as an ally phone. An item we'll talk about a bit further on in the list. The problem is that when it is bad, you do not want to use it at all. While you can just keep the custom die block until it is good to use, that in itself poses its own problems. As I mentioned before, item uses are a very important resource in Super Mario Party due to how powerful even the weakest items are in this title. Does not use an item for a turn is a very high price to pay. This means that to actively picking to get a custom die block, you do ideally already want to have 1 or 2 other items in the box you plan on using in the next couple of turns to not waste an item use. It also does not help that the custom die block more often than not shares shop with an item that is, to put it gently, far better than it in most circumstances. However, I am never sad over getting this item from an item space or through other means. It is definitely an item I always want sitting in my inventory, given I have other items to use up until the time is right for me to pop the custom die block to gain an ally. And as such, it is a phenomenal item I would pick over some items that are higher on it in the list. However, I need to take when it isn't that good into account as well, and can't judge it solely for how good it is when everything lines up, even though it does quite often line up for it. Number 4 on the list is another classic item, the Golden Dash Mushroom. This is the upgraded version of the Dash Mushroom and puts you forward 5 spaces instead of 3. All I said above about the normal Dash Mushroom applies here to the Golden Dash Mushroom as well. It is once again a wonderful item to be able to control where you land with your die roll for characters with more certain die. But it also helps you cover far more ground, which is very powerful for the purpose of rushing to stars and item shops. It is so undeniably powerful to just go from shop to shop and buy golden mushrooms to maintain the pace. The low price of 5 coins for this item and its wide availability makes that really potent use of 5 coins. And the only time I would not spend those 5 coins on the Golden Dash Mushroom if there's another item that will come to later on in the list in the same shop. But you bet I will go out of my way to get the Golden Dash Mushroom at that valuable price. The only actual problem with this item, from my point of view, is that it kind of makes the Dash Mushroom an item you rarely if ever buy. Everything you normally use the Dash Mushroom for, such as getting through nasty sections of a board, the Super Dash Mushroom does better, and the Dash Mushroom often shares its shop with the Super Mushroom. And both cost the same coins per space move. And due to the item use itself being a very valuable and limited resource in Super Mario Party, it becomes very much more powerful than its little sibling. Overall, if this item is available, buy it. Even if it costs you your 5 last coins, it is definitely worthwhile purchase, as most boards have spaces you really want to avoid, which this item is great at doing. The bronze medal position goes to Fly Guy Ticket. I have another clausule I need to add to my rating of this item to make you understand why I rate this so highly, despite it stealing a random item from the player of your choice rather than you get to pick the item. And that is because of what I have been talking about throughout this entire list about how valuable item uses are. This means that very often players will actually sit with only one item, as it is very rarely worth it to sit on an item. And the only items you will want sit on are very powerful items. The Fly Guy Ticket is, however, also suffering quite a bit from the same mechanic. The fact that you use the item to steal an item means you won't be using the item the turn you steal it, as you spend your item for a turn stealing an item. While this is still fundamentally a good item, this does hurt it quite a bit, and if it was for this, it would by far be the most powerful item in the game in my opinion. Not only is this a good item to use, but the threat of someone holding this item does prevent the rest of the players from using the most powerful strategy in the game, as you can rob them from the item that enables that strategy whenever they buy it. And no one wants to be the one losing 10 coins to give you a golden pipe, I can promise you that. This does, however, require to sit with the item and not use it. And unless you have other items to use, this means that each turn you do this, you are passing out on an item use. Which, as we talked about before, is far from optimal in Super Mario Party. I would say that this item is the most powerful in the hand of the player in the lead though, as a way to freeze the game with you in the leading position, as the by far most winning thing in Super Mario Party is the golden pipe. Another large problem with this item is that between you get it and you get to use it, with the exception for if you get it on the final 3 turns events, all players around the table gets 1 turn to use up their most powerful item, which means that you can't really luck into getting to steal a warp pipe, unless one player has been stocking up on several warp pipes, meaning that this item will normally just be used as a fright tool to prevent the purchase of new golden pipes. Even though this item has obvious weaknesses, it is situationally a game-ending item to get, and when I say situationally here, I mean almost every time. Which is why it reaches this high up on the list, as the times when this item is good, it is game-endingly good. When someone gets this item, the entire game slows down for all the other players, which is enough to make the player with a Fly Guy ticket being able to sneak in a win. Thankfully, this item does not appear in shops and is an extremely rare item from item spaces. This does not affect too many games too often, to the point of it becoming an annoyance. The runner-up on this list is the Ally Phone. I thought quite a bit on the custom dialogue about why getting an ally is such a ridiculously good thing in Super Mario Party. This item has that upside, but none of the downsides of the custom dialogue. This is the item you always use immediately as it sits in your inventory, as if for the rest of the game will get 1.5 added to your average die roll in addition to a new die to pick when you pick which die to roll for the rest of the game. This item is to the custom die block what the golden dash mushroom is to the dash mushroom, but thankfully this one cannot be purchased in a shop. You can sadly not use it to get past bad spaces though, but the fact that you get the ally on the roll you are currently about to make, plus you get to move with whatever allies you already have as well, makes it a ridiculously powerful item. It was very hard to pick between this item and the number 1 item on this list, out of which one would become the winner of the list. But there was one thing that talked slightly against this item. While 3 of the bonus stars are directly or indirectly tied to allies, the ally star for the most allies, the body star for having a specific ally, and the sightseeing star for whoever moves the most spaces, which, truth will be told, will more often not be the one with the most allies as well. Despite the potential to get bonus stars, this item loses a lot of value during the late game. In addition to this, allies makes it harder to aim to land on specific spaces without using a custom die block. While these are very minor issues, they were enough to tip the scale in favor of the behemoth of an item that is taking up the number 1 spot of this list. Let us get to that one. The gold medal winner is the golden pipe, but probably not for reasons a lot of people might initially assume. If it only brought the star to you, I will make this clear, this item would likely be on 3rd place on the list. What makes this item so ridiculously powerful are the follow-up plays that are easy to do after getting teleported to certain stars. The biggest and the most ridiculous thing you can truly do with this item is that it can be used to take you back to the shop where you buy the golden pipe, to make it possible for you to chain the golden pipes into one another, which is an extremely powerful 1-2 punch that nets you 2 stars and puts you in a very favorable position on the board, as the golden pipe shops are often located at quite favorable but hard to reach places. It also helps you from getting stuck in nasty spots in Megaforce Paradise, which is a map where the player can quite easily be put in highly unfavorable positions due to how nasty the happening spaces are on that board. My favorite way to use this item is by far to use it on Womp's Dominant Ruins to put myself to a star when it pops close to Lakido and the Golden Pipe Shop, so that I can get 2 really spicy turns that can then very likely be followed up by repeating this due to how many star spaces are spawning close to the Golden Pipe Shop on that board. The only board where I am a little colder on the Golden Pipe and would rate the ally phone strictly above it is King Babam's Powder Keg Mine, where there just aren't any good ways to go about chaining golden pipes into one another due to the star spawn positions, with only really one star spawning being relatively close to a golden pipe shop. And the golden pipe shop is really hard to farm due to it being extremely far out of the way to prevent the chaining that makes this item so powerful on the other boards. At the end of the day though, this item is so fundamental to movement strategies on 2 of the 4 boards, and in Kamek's Tantalizing Tower, being able to get immediately to the star is so ridiculously valuable to the mix of it being able to buy multiple stars at the same time and the changing star prices, which means that being able to get to the star at the right time can pay off so much more on this particular board than any other board. I can't in any plausible way put any other item above it in Super Mario Party. While the star warping items have been powerful in all Mario Party games, the mix of the design of Super Mario Party's boards and the generous economy creates a perfect storm that makes this item far more powerful and much more of an instant purchase than in any previous entry into the series. These are, however, just my opinions, and I would love to hear yours. Whether you agree with me or not, I would love to read what your thoughts on this list are and the items in Super Mario Party. Feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and if you like my video and want to see more, feel free to press the subscribe button for more gaming related videos from me. If you want to see more of my thoughts on Super Mario Party, you could watch my video on what I think of the board designs of Super Mario Party. If you want to see me rate other things, I do strongly recommend you watch my video on top 7 most useful Bleed 2 weapons, where I give my opinions about the weapons in Bleed 2 from the perspective of how useful they are rather than just how generally speaking powerful they are. Until next time, plenty of hugs and stay cute everyone.